Well, as Nathan mentioned, it's kind of that sporting season, isn't it? The Euros. I didn't know if we were going to be here today thinking Wednesday 8 p.m. All plans have to change, and it's time to put what's really important in place of everything else that was before. But also this season kind of makes me think of, Wimbledon as well. We're loving the sport of Wimbledon. Who is excited for the Olympics as well? Did we forget that the Olympics are happening? I was reminded of this the other day because I had the privilege of having 3 children, 3 boys, and 2 sports days 2 weeks ago in a row. It was full on. But what it did for me is it reminded me of my sports days. I had some great memories, but also had some pretty bad memories. And I'm going to be honest with you and share one of those great memories. I was asked if I would compete in a particular run for my house team. And so I, confidently said, yes, I can do this. I'm gonna make a difference for the team. I'm gonna give us some house points, and I'm gonna try my best for the team. I was aware that there were some other competitors in this race that were kind of county standard. I was kind of like my own garden standard. So I wasn't great, but I kind of backed myself. And the gun went off, and the first 100 meters, I thought, if I could just keep just second place, I can get them in that final straight. As we went round the 200 meters, I was still in place, and I was doing well. 300 meters, coming to the final straight, and I'm still in second place. And I think, gosh, I've got more in the tank. I can do this. And I start sprinting. I hear people shouting, yelling my name. And as I cross the line in first place, the bell rings. There was still another lap. I want to talk to us today about perseverance. I want to talk to us today about when it's kind of that moment where you want to give up because you realize there's more to go. Do you know this last week, the 2nd of July, was actually the halfway point of the year? That's crazy. We're closer to Christmas than we were this time last year. But I don't know about you, life can be a little bit like that, can't it? It feels like we're doing really well. Life's going well, relationships are going well. It seems that everything's kind of working in our favor. In fact, we're winning the race of life. And then suddenly we realize that there's more to go. There's more to come. And there's this new pressure that kind of becomes a part of the situation that we're in. I don't know if you've ever had that. You wake up in the morning and you think, I'm doing really well, and then suddenly an email comes through, 10 past 10, you're doing really well, and then out of nowhere, the day is done. You just want to give up. You want to hang in the boots. You want to say, I'm done. I've had enough. It reminds me, actually, of a book that I love to read my boys. Have you heard of it? Going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. We're not scared. Oh no, mud. Thick, oozy mud. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. We've got to go through it. Often in life, things are going to involve us having to go through even though. Go through even though it's uncomfortable, even though it feels like I can't do this, even though it's going to mean actually having to deal with some stuff that's going to be painful for us personally, we've got to go through it. Actually, do you know what? There are moments in life where you question yourself. For me, it was actually after just doing my theology degree. The thing that was meant to make me kind of convinced and to confirm that this is the thing I wanted to do, to preach the word, to lead a church. And I was questioning whether I was even a Christian at the end of it. The person laughing the loudest is the one currently doing a theology degree, because she knows exactly what I've gone through. But we're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. We're not scared. How about this? We're going to follow Jesus. We're not going to give up. We've got faith. We're going to follow Jesus. Oh no, that diagnosis. We're going to follow Jesus. oh no, my marriage is breaking down. We're going to follow Jesus. I'm dealing with this horrendous colleague at work. I want to encourage us today that we can be people that can run with passion, run with purpose, and run with perspective because of who Jesus is. And firstly, from this passage, what we can learn is that we can consider others. It talks about this great cloud of witnesses. I don't know if you've ever been to the movies. I've been quite recently, and I went actually just last Sunday afternoon. And it's when you're kind of in that moment where you're cheering on that main character, and you're like, just don't give up. Honestly, you can do this. I never thought Inside Out 2 would grip me in the way it did, but I cared so much for that character. Do you know, it's amazing when you think about it, that actually there is a great cloud of witnesses, those that have gone before, described in Hebrews 11 as the heroes of the faith. They're cheering you on. They're cheering me on. They're cheering us on. You've got more people cheering you on than fighting against you. Be encouraged by that today. So you've got the heroes of the faith cheering you on, but you've also got each other cheering each other on. Do you know what? I would love for us to be an encouraging church. To be a church where it's like, do you know what? I wasn't at group last week, but I received this really kind message of encouragement, and I was cheered on anyway. Jesus sent his disciples in pairs for a reason. It was so that they wouldn't get isolated. It was so that they would do life together. We talk about that. Belong to a group, because doing life on your own is just dangerous, in my opinion. In fact, it's one of I think the enemy's favorite places is when he sees Christians walking alone. Don't walk alone. Don't travel alone. Be with others. Encourage each other. Cheer each other on. So consider others. Feel that great cloud of witnesses. Hear their voices as they cheer you on. And make sure you can hear each other's voices as you cheer each other on as well. And it talks about throwing off everything that hinders. I don't know what you think about when it comes to that for yourself. Considering yourself, what is it that is hindering you? In the ancient world, contestants for running races, they would strip down pretty much to a loincloth. It's quite funny, actually. At one of these sports days for my eldest son, the parents turn up in all their gear. They've got rid of their coats and they've got rid of their jeans. They've decided, I'm going to wear my trainers, I'm going to wear my shorts, I'm going to wear my t-shirt, because the kids, their race might not really matter. It does to me, but it might not matter to some parents. But when it comes to the parents racing, it's not the taking part that counts. There's been training for a whole year before. Trust me, we've talked about it at the school gate. And me trying to be kind of, I don't know, understated, just kind of, I guess, trying my best to not make it look like I really care. I rock up in sliders and slightly baggier shorts and a shirt. I still think I've kind of got it. I still think I'm going to win the race. It was a bit awkward when they then said, okay, parents, it's time for a tug of war. And I've forgotten the sliders I'm still wearing are on my feet as we start pulling. There's a photo that I can't show because parents are in there that aren't here right now, but you actually can't see me in the photo because I've fallen on the floor, because my sliders have no grip and they have hindered my ability, possibly should have and assumed by a lot of people being one of the stronger members of the team, falling on the floor, holding onto the rope, being dragged away because my gear was the wrong gear for the event. I would have been okay without trainers for a run, I'm sure. But what is it that you need to throw off that's hindering you? What is it that you're doing in your life right now that's not allowing you to pursue holiness in the way that you want to and you need to? What's the stuff that's getting into you, that's getting onto you? What's it that you're watching? What's it that you're reading? What's it that you're seeing? We throw off everything that hinders. And what we do is, when we do that, we recognize that there are things that are in us that need to be sorted out. A couple of years ago, I received probably one of the most helpful but also at the same time confusing gifts I've ever been given. It was a food intolerance test kit. It was from my in-laws. It made me think, do they think I have a problem? And in which case, have I in some way made it seem that I have a problem? And then I got in my head and thought, have I been inappropriate around them after eating? Who knows? Anyway, it turned out that after taking this test that I was intolerant to lettuce. I was quite grateful for that. I'm not a massive fan. White fish, halibut in particular. Intolerant to cow's milk. Problem is, I really like ice cream. I really like a milkshake. I actually like a duck salad every now and then. And I love fish and chips. I still have those things. I just feel the consequences like I did anyway, but I know that they're coming. I wonder if there's anyone here that's taking stuff into them, putting stuff onto them, doing things that they know ultimately aren't good for them because they like it, but they know even though they like it, the consequences are coming. What is it that you need to throw off that's hindering you to fix your eyes on Jesus? Because we have to consider Jesus. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. There's a picture coming up of a racehorse, and the racehorse is really interesting because horses have incredible peripheral vision, extraordinary peripheral vision. And these two kind of guards by the horse's eyes, as you can see, they're called horse blinkers. And they are put on the horse to basically prevent them from being distracted from their race, so that when they come to the next hurdle, they can actually jump the hurdle with ease, so that they're not distracted by the other horses in their area, so that they can focus on the prize, they can focus on what's in front of them. I wonder whether any of us, if we're really honest, we like to live with a bit of a peripheral vision. When actually, I think the question for us is to ask, are we wearing our spiritual blinkers? What does it look like to focus? What does it look like to take away from what is distracting either side of us? Potentially looking at other people, what they're doing, the comparison. We know, right, the comparison's a thief of joy. What is it that Jesus has put in front of you for you to do? Those obstacles are going to come. Of course they are. There's going to be hurdles that we have to jump, that we have to face. And some of them, they're going to look a lot bigger than others. But we keep our eyes fixed in front of us on Jesus. I heard it said, for every one look within, which is tempting, right? Probably all of us at some point today have looked at ourselves in a mirror, in a reflection or something. This is where it challenges me. For every one look within, take 10 looks at him. For every one look within, take 10 looks at him. Because we follow the one whose teaching example is the greatest this world has ever seen. And if we want to live a life rooted in faith and resilience, perseverance to run the race marked out for us, the long haul, he is the only way. It says he is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. It's interesting that the joy set before him, not the cross. Cross was painful. The cross was rejection. The cross was separation. The joy was you. The joy was me. The joy was us knowing freedom and relationship with him. That was the joy. And if you're a Christian here, that's an encouragement. And if you're not a Christian here, it's important you know that he died on the cross for you because he wanted you to know how much he loves you. Because he wanted you to know that he would go to the height of pain and the depth of shame for you to understand his mercy and his grace and his love for you. Don't lose heart. He didn't give up. He didn't lose heart. He died for us. In the story of the bear hunt, you'll know it, the family, they get to the cave. They see a wet nose. They realize it's a bear. What do? They run. Jesus went into another type of cave, and he faced the bear so that we don't have to. He defeated the bear so that we can know that we live in victory. We don't have to run from anything. We only run towards him, the one that's already defeated the grave. So what does this mean for us? Well, how this week, let's say tomorrow morning, you can consider other people. Could you send a message, even today, just cheering on someone that's in your group you haven't seen for a while? Could you message someone that you haven't connected with in a long time just to say, cheering you on? And if you don't feel you can say cheering you on, how are you doing? I'd like to know how I can be cheering you on. How can you consider yourself this week? What's hindering you if you're really honest? Have you got your spiritual blinkers on this week? Have you this week got anything that's coming up that you know is ultimately not going to be good for you, in the same way that I know that having a milkshake will have repercussions for hours on the toilet? What is it that you can do to decide to make a pre-decision today that's going to make your life more holy and set apart for him? I wonder whether there's someone here, in particular, a relationship you're in, it's pulling you down, and you just feel trapped in that relationship. You have to see that person. I encourage you in a minute, we're going to have some prayer. Maybe you're exhausted and you're operating actually out of a sense of obligation rather than obedience. Maybe there's someone here that you're doing something that God told you to do, which is great, but he's actually asking you as well to stop. But it's hard to hear him say stop to do something that he's asked you to do before. Often when he asks you to do something, he'll also tell you when to stop it as well. And then what does it look like for us tomorrow morning as we begin to pray for football to finally come home? 7 of possibly the most important days we've had in a long time. To put the Lord first, to be in the Word, to make room to pray, to make sure that we're in his presence together. I don't know whether it feels like for you right now in your life, it's like the bell has rung and you're thinking, I just want to give up. I'm done. That's how I felt with my run, honestly. So I crossed over that line and thought I'd won and heard the bell ring. I thought, I've definitely not quite clocked what's been asked of me for this race. And as I carried on my run at the back of the pack, what I realized was that actually in that moment I had a choice, either to stick with it or to give up. And what I began to hear as I came round the final bend, I began to hear some people starting to say, Bailey, Bailey, Bailey. By the way, for context, at this point, everyone else has crossed the finish line. Bailey, Bailey. And then I realized it wasn't just my house doing it. I was 15 years old, and half the school, most of the school didn't know me. But suddenly the whole of the stadium, Prince of Wales Stadium in Cheltenham, were beginning to go, Bailey, Bailey, Bailey. And then there was cheers, Bailey. And do you know what it did? It made me start sprinting. I didn't know I had anything left in the tank. I started sprinting as quickly as I could, that final 100 meters. I crossed the finish line in last place. But I finished the race. A cloud of witnesses are cheering you on. You can hear them saying your name. And it's going to be painful. And sometimes in our race, we're going to have to pull up, and it's going to be painful. I couldn't have done it without those people cheering me on. There's a video coming up right now. I'd just love us to watch as we close this morning. There isn't a video coming up this morning. There's a video that was going to be played of an Olympian called Derek Rodman. And he was running the 400 meters, funnily enough, the one that I thought I was running. And he pulls up. He has a hamstring tear. And he wants to give up. He wants to give up, but at the same time, he wants to finish the race. If you get a chance, do go and watch this. Type it into YouTube, Derek Rodman Olympics. What you'd see is after about 100 meters of limping in pain, his father basically pushes the security guard out the way, comes alongside him, puts his arm over his shoulder, and he starts running with him. At this point, Derek Rodman, he begins to cry, begins to weep. The reality of his limp and his pain has suddenly taken over. But also, I think the relief of knowing his father was with him in that moment. He didn't have to try anymore to do it on his own. The reality is, if you're like me, you're broken. The reality is, if you're like me, you're walking this life with a limp. The reality is, if you're like me, you need to know that you have a heavenly Father alongside you saying, don't give up. I'm here with you. The beautiful thing about the race that we're in of life is that we don't do this on our own, because he stands with us where we are today. And he says to us, run this race marked out for you with perseverance. Fix your eyes on me, but don't do it alone. Run together. He runs alongside us. He's cheering us on, saying, don't give up. Keep going. The bell might have rung, but there's more to come.